So a few of you have been asking about my SP reunion manifestation story, the one that I keep sharing on my social media, which, yes, was going back quite a few years ago now. And the reason why I shared this one is, of course, because of all of the bumps in the road and all of the obstacles that I had to face, and the fact that I was quite new to the process and learning, which is the same for a lot of you, and I think makes it a relatable thing. In fact, a lot of you have been able to relate to that story as well, and I think it's quite commonplace when you've got obstacles like distance in your way, or hatred, or third party involvement. And so I was talking about how my assumptions had changed him, had shifted him, had gone from him not talking to me, not even liking me, maybe even hating me to a level, where he was bad mouthing me and stuff. And a lot of you were curious to know how I changed his assumptions. I'm going to share with you my experience in this video. First up, thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Please do feel free to like and subscribe to the content. It really does help the channel to grow, and I'm super grateful to all of you for being here. I'm Athena Raven, a mental health and manifestation life coach, and here just to empower you on your manifestation journey, because I love nothing more than to hear your success stories and know that you are really grasping this. So thank you very much for being here today. So with my story, as you know, going back now with my SP, who, by the way, even though we're not still in a relationship, I manifested him as I wanted him with my assumptions, and he returned to me. It was a wonderful relationship that we had, but of course I had been doing so much self-work, and of course, nothing remains stagnant. Everything is always changing in this world, as are our desires, as are we. And I changed where I got to a point where I'd kind of outgrown the relationship and wanted to do and explore and discover other things, I suppose. But he to this day would still have a relationship with me, and he and I are actually the best of friends, and he's doing so well, because if you knew what he was like when we were in the relationship together, mental health issues, drug issues, just all sorts of things. And then of course, as a result, he'd be cheating, he'd be lying. It really became quite a turbulent, toxic situation. And I knew when I was manifesting him back into my life that I didn't want that back. I loved him. I knew that what he was capable of. I knew in the beginning of our relationship, everything was beautiful, and we were together quite a long time. My first love situation, same for him as well. We were each other's first love, and I knew what he was capable of. I could see it. I knew he had a good heart, but then all these other issues came into play. And perhaps at the time, I had a lot of insecurities. So I know that he was mirroring my behavior. I was worried about his deception, so he'd continue to lie. I was worried about him cheating on me. And then of course, a third party comes along twice. I was worried that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't his priority, and so I became less and less of a priority. When drugs took over, and his being with his friends and things like that, or being with people who were also doing drugs. So I had all these beliefs. He was reflecting it back. That's what you need to always remember, guys. Like, this is a wonderful time for reflection. A breakup is horrible, and when you miss, you love, you want to be with your SP, and say it's a relationship you had before, or maybe it was a relationship that never really materialized, or didn't quite get to a relationship level, you've been admiring them from afar per se, the situation is always going to be the same. You always have to look within. Why isn't this happening? Why aren't we together yet? Or, why did we break up? What was going wrong? Go within yourself for those answers, and ask yourself in a meditative, calm state, well, what were my thoughts? What were my dominant beliefs at the time? Because at the time I didn't realize it. All the time I was trying to control the situation. I was trying to get him off drugs, trying to get him to go to rehab places, pushing him to stop and to change, pushing him to be faithful to me, and looking at his phone and seeing messages he had sent to this other girl, and micromanaging, controlling, trying to force change with the 3D reality, using the 3D reality. And this is where a lot of us go wrong. If you're trying to force change in your world by trying to change your surroundings, the things around you from the outside, you're going to notice that it is an uphill struggle. Whereas if you go within yourself and allow things to just change around you organically, naturally, from that means, as within, so without, let it reflect out of you. It's a much more smooth sailing process. And you know what, there's something to be said for just, it's like being chauffeur driven or driving yourself through heavy traffic. if you're trying to control the 3D where you're texting them because you want contact with them, or you're looking at their phone to see if they've cheated, or their social media, or you're trying to force contact, you're trying to force the situation in some way, then it's like driving in traffic and getting road rage and stress and not getting anywhere fast. Whereas if you just relinquish control to the process of it, you are being chauffeur driven, you are sitting in the back seat, you are just like, you deal with it, you drive the car, you deal with the traffic, I'm just going to sit back and be taken on my journey and allow it to flow. Any inspired action I need to take, I will, but anything I do need to take, I'm going to feel it for within, and it's not going to be a case of me clambering over because I want to grab the wheel, because I want to drive it myself and just get myself stressed about it and still not get anywhere fast or get through the traffic in that means. So that's an analogy I just came up with just now. But I think it's a good metaphor for how this works. So it was the same with my SP. Once I realized, my behaviors that broke the relationship down, once I realized that everything I was doing to try and, break the situation up between him and this third party, that, trying to do everything to gain contact with him again, trying to make him notice me again and respect me, none of it was working. So I focused within myself. And this is where a lot of the self-work came in. Now, in order to change his assumptions of him, all I had to do was change my belief of him, the old story that I had attached. I was looking at the past and how we were and how we were fighting. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I did Neville Goddard's revision technique. I'll do another video where I can do maybe a guided version similar to what I did, so that you guys can utilize it as well for your benefit. But, in this video, I'm just going to sort of say what I went through, So I went through the revision technique because there was a lot of things that happened, as you could probably guess, that were not good events. And I didn't want him to remember it. I didn't want him to focus on it, because he was using it as an excuse. And of course, telling the new girlfriend, what a bad person I was, and telling the family and everything, bad mouthing. I didn't want that to be a reality. That was my anchor. That was my problem. So I went back and I revised it, changed the story, so it wasn't my anchor and that it wouldn't be affecting him. And of course, when we came back together, he did say to me, a lot of the stuff he didn't remember. He had blocked out, and then he ended up blaming it on, I don't know, well, I wasn't in a good place, and I don't remember doing that. I don't remember saying this. It was like it was completely wiped from his mind. It didn't become important because in his head, we had a great relationship. In his head, he was the perfect boyfriend, but that was based on my revision tactics. Then, of course, I went within myself and I just had the assumptions. I had the belief. I looked at old birthday cards and things that he sent me, messages of love and adoration. And I thought, I believe we are all energy. We are all energy. And, emotions, thoughts that we have, it's all energy. All of it is. So, okay, the opposite of love is hate. So maybe he was hating me then, but I thought, well, it's not going to take much for him to love me again. Hate is just, it's because he loves me so much that he's angry. It's because he loves me so much that he had to badmouth me, that he had to get away, that he had to block me. It's because he loved me so much, he's being triggered by what I was doing. He didn't want to know what I was up to, even though he's the one who left. He was the one in a relationship. It was painful for him to think about that. I made all those assumptions, whether they were accurate or not at the time, who knows. But I do know for a fact, after asking him, that his assumptions had changed, that he was thinking about me, that he was missing me. He didn't remember hating me on any level or being angry at me even on any level, because I stuck true to those assumptions. I would look at those cards. I would look at the gifts I'd received. I remembered the good times and the love, and I built on that. My visuals, my visualizations and my daydreams about my new current reality, my new relationship with him, where he's not on drugs, where he's driving, where he's working, where he's looking after me as I was looking after him, where it became a relationship of balance rather than me all the time, him relying on me picking up the pieces, me trying to fix things. It was a relationship of a codependency, which is what I'd always wanted. And I had taken that on and assumed that and visualized that on a regular basis, sat before I went to bed. And throughout the day, if I felt crappy, I would sit down with my thoughts, would just quieten my mind, breathe slowly, go within myself and visualize that that end goal. And sometimes I would have different scenes playing in my head, or him coming by or giving me flowers. Little things, little daydreams that would just make me smile, that would immerse me in the feeling more and more. Because, you know, I was feeling crummy in the beginning, and in the first few months, actually, you know, it took me a while. There is no time limit to healing. And so I allowed myself that time to heal, you know, and so I did the visualizations as much as I needed to. So when I was having crummy days and stuff, I would sit down and I would refocus and I would meditate on it, and I would visualize again him doing nice things for me. And of course, you know, this changed my assumptions. All I was focusing in on, all I was zeroing in on was me and him, me and him. You know, I would reduce the toxicity that was the old story, and I would build this new story, this new scenario of the two of us enjoying time together, of the two of him absolutely revering me and loving me again and being affectionate with me and stuff like that. So I was really bathing myself in all of these glorious emotions on a regular basis until I could actually let go of it and feel as though that was the situation beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like I've said in previous videos, I never walked around as if I already have it. I mean, I felt fulfilled. He wasn't in my life physically in the 3D, but I felt fulfilled to a point, because I had immersed myself in these feelings so much. It became my sort of go-to, and I felt good about myself, and I got on with my life, and I did things for myself, and I bettered myself, and I even, you know, dated someone else for a bit as well, but always in the knowing that he was going to come back and he was shifting his state to a more loving, respectful person. And of course, he was going through his change. You've got to give them that time to change as well. It's not just you who is going through the change and the self-concept work and building yourself up into this person that deserves the desire. You've also got to keep in mind that they're going through a shift too. They take time to do that, sometimes not too long. It depends on how strong your assumptions are, how steadfast you stick to them as well, how much you can ignore your 3D, how long you absolutely occupy the state of this is it, this is a given, this is done, this is the new story. You know, if you're steadfast to that, then the shifts just start to happen naturally. Remember what Neville Goddard said, an assumption that is persisted in will harden into fact. So there really wasn't that much that I had to do in terms of like loads of techniques and things, no. And at times when I was feeling low, when I was feeling less than, and if the third party was bothering me, I would do the visualization that I've got on my YouTube as well, the guided visualization to diminish the third party's power, because I didn't want that to filter into my story where he's treating her better. You know, he thinks of her better. He always treated me like rubbish, but he's treating her like a queen. And, you know, no, I want some of that. I was like, there's no competition. She doesn't exist. He is treating me like that. He wants to treat me like that. And of course, when we met up, yes, he did. And he's helped me so much, and he's done so much more for me now. And like I say, we're the best of friends, and we're there for each other, and it's a codependency. So even though it's not a sort of romantic relationship anymore, you know, I did have that romantic relationship with him when I manifested him back, and we were together for a few years, and it was wonderful and just amazing to see how he forgotten a lot of the bad stuff, didn't carry it with him. Instead, he'd sort of be like, yeah, I don't remember it. But then he'd also say, well, you know, past is the past. And, you know, he didn't want me to remember it either, all this stuff that I, you know, it's really quite interesting how it works. And that's pretty much the stuff that I did in order to change his assumptions. It's just knowing that he did love me and immersing myself in the stuff that he bought me, and realizing that, well, he's loved me. Where they love you once, they will love you again. And in some cases, you know, the second time around, the reunion is more loving, is more beautiful, is more intense than the first time around, because you've learned from your mistakes, because you've had that time apart to both grow, because you've appreciated not having each other in each other's lives anymore. So when you come together again, it is beautiful. And sometimes, you know, that is worth waiting for. And it's not, I'm not saying that it's going to take long necessarily, but time is not a factor here. You know, you've got to do that change and that shift and believe in it and stick to the assumption, and then they will shift and become the person you wish them to be. You know, and I'd always known in my heart, he misses me, he loves me, he wants to be with me. I just felt it. That was a natural shift. They were like natural affirmations, natural inner talking that came from within me. At no point did I stand there, you know, doing these affirmations like a robot all the time. You know, I would just be affirming to myself internally, like, I know that he loves me. Oh, I know that he'll be back. You know, I know that I'm his soulmate and he adores me. And I just knew. And I think a lot of that shift came with the visual work. The revision helped, but that visual, that that visualization and immersing myself in the daydream, I think that was the real key. Out of everything that I tried, every other tactic, every other techniques, and it's the same for anything that you're manifesting as well, you know, you cannot beat the power of the imagination. Remember, when I say visualization, I'm not saying you've got to picture it clearly in your mind, you know, a picture, see it, because I know that's difficult for a lot of people. Don't be put off by that. But if you can feel in your heart what they're saying, you know, if you can hear them saying it to you, saying these things, being the person that they can be, you know, feel it in your heart. Use your other senses, you know, smell, taste, you know, whatever it might be, and just immerse yourself in the feeling on a regular basis. Make those assumptions within you strengthened so that you can stick within it. And the assumption that you've got that remains constantly is going to harden into the fact, and they are going to reflect it. They're going to reflect your inner beliefs and thoughts about them. And I didn't believe he hated me. I didn't believe that he didn't love me. Even though the 3D was reflecting differently, even though he was blocking me, even though he didn't want to know me. Turn a blind eye to it, and I was just, I refuse to accept this. And I refuse to, you know, think and feel that this is how you are. No, I know that you love me. I know that you want to be with me. So I hope this really helps. If you've got any questions, do feel free to share them in the comments. I'm sending you guys all the love and comfort in the world during your difficult journeys, and I look forward to your success stories.